Well, I am delighted to say that joining me on today's Godcast is the one and only Anthea Turner. Now, Anthea probably doesn't need much introduction, but she is and has been a TV personality for well over 30 years. And she's presented some of our favourite shows from Top of the Pops, Blue Peter, GMTV, the National Lottery, and the list goes on and on. So it's a real joy. Thanks, Anthea, for joining us. How are you today?
I am very well, thank you. I thought when you said she has been, I thought that was where you were going to stop. She's a has been. Stop.
Never. I would never say that.
Fully good. I'm really well, actually. I think we're on the very tail end now, aren't we? Of soon being able to. I'm sort of getting euphoric because I can see that light at the end of the tunnel of being all let out again.
Whereabouts in the world are you, Anthea? Where do we speak?
So I'm in London. I'm in central London. As I look out of my window here, I can see the Thames flowing beautifully past me, and what I call the beach. It's not really a beach, but it's the best bit of beach I've got at the moment, and they're the banks at the side of the Thames. And when the tide is low, and I'm a bit of an anorak about the Thames, and I have a Thames app, and I check the tides. And when the tides are low, you can walk actually for a long, long way along the banks of the Thames. And I always say to people, you know, if you're getting a bit stressed, find water. Always find water. And there's something about it that just calms us all down. So yeah. I love living by it.
Excellent. One of the questions I have as a standard question is, because I'm in Burnley, Lancashire. Have you ever been to Burnley? Have you ever been up these parts?
Because I come from Stoke-on-Trent. So, and I have travelled all over the country, either doing Blue Peter or GMTV, or I used to do an About Britain holiday programme. My dad's a big one. We as kids, we never went abroad. We did that thing that everybody did in the 60s. You went to Wales, Scotland, Cornwall. So I haven't been to Burnley, but I'm sort of quite well travelled, I think, around the UK. Okay. My mum and dad's idea of abroad was Southern Ireland.
Right.
So
very well. There's worse places you could visit.
No, lovely. It's great.
So listen, when you agreed to do the Godcast, I was very pleasantly surprised and delighted. But then, as I thought, well, I better start preparing some questions. Lo and behold, what happens is that I looked on Twitter.
I gave it
to you. And you are everywhere. You were everywhere.
I gave it to you on a plate. It was a cartoon.
Yeah.
Which is of a lady who is on a mobility scooter because she can't walk because she is eating Big Mac, and she's got one of those massive drinks. There's Mac and chips and da-da-da-da. And she's pointing a finger and accusing a girl who's running, who's not wearing a mask, and she says, "Put a mask on, you're endangering my health." And I think it's quite a hard-hitting cartoon, but I think it has a great message that has not been talked about enough. And I actually did a piece in the Sun last Saturday about this. Because they allowed me to speak about this subject, and I say it's one that's just not talked about. That the world, for probably the first time ever, and you and I are old enough to have known those stories where we started to realise that there were people starving in the world. And Biafra was the first one that I remember, and that there are more people now who are killing themselves with food than are starving in the world. And I was always, and the sad fact is that it's an epidemic that's run through our country. 68% of men in this country are either overweight or obese, 58% of women. And there has to be a reason for that. But nobody likes to talk about it. But it is killing us. And, for every death that is as a direct result of obesity, there's a family there grieving. And a lot of deaths from obesity or heart attacks and everything that they bring on tend to actually be younger people who go before your time. They're in their 50s and 60s and early 70s. And I think it's tragic. And I've always watched these conferences, You've started me now. I've always watched these conferences where we have all the, the figures and the things that are going on and vaccine conversations, and, everybody's there, wear masks, wash your hands, keep 2 meters apart, save the NHS, save lives. Why didn't they also put effort at this pivotal point in our nation's health to say, and by the way, these things, masks and washing hands, these are going to stop you getting the virus. But if you get it, let's talk about putting yourself in the best position you possibly can to not actually go down with it, not end up in hospital, and not, obviously, sadly, it be your demise. And everybody's known. In fact, Boris stood up and said why he'd ended up in hospital. He was quite open about it, and then nothing else was ever said. Then it all shut down. And I just think if they put as much effort and money into health and social services as they've done in locking us up, would we not have come out of this better, more enlightened? Would this not have been a great opportunity to crack what is a pandemic? And this pandemic, which is the food one, COVID will dampen down. I think it's going to be with us probably for longer than we'd like to think it's going to be, but it's a virus. So, viruses will be in the air for, ever. But we have this double pandemic, and, it was like putting a Molotov cocktail into obesity, COVID was, and it's accentuated that. So
Did you expect the response? Did you, when you put it out?
No, I didn't actually, because I thought that people would see it for what it was, which is it was nothing to do with being disabled. Because and I have said it so many times and on Twitter, but we mustn't, Twitter's not the greatest forum, that if you really want to save the NHS, look after your own health to the best of your ability. And I'm quoted on this months and months and months ago, years ago, I've said this: look after your health and leave the NHS to the people who don't have a choice, in the matter. My sister had spina bifida, so she was born with a body that didn't work, and she would have done anything to have had a body that worked. So when we have this great thing, this God-given body, you think, oh my God, it works. Don't destroy it. Don't destroy it. Just cherish it and realize, our body is an amazing thing. The human body, just look at it. Just look at what it does. Yeah. And then we destroy it. And there's various ways of destroying it, isn't it? And I don't sit on any pedestal. Of course, we all like a cake. We all like something naughty, but they're treats. And I suppose growing up in the 60s, they were always a treat. God, sweets were a treat. Even a fizzy drink was a treat. We could only have dandelion burdock on a Sunday. And it's in me, look after your teeth. You're not going to get another set. All of those things. So
the thing that struck me, Anthea, though, out of that was, I got the cartoon and I wasn't particularly offended by it. I could see why others may have been. But actually out of that came this other issue around health, which I think is one of mental health, because this then raised the issue of what is offensive and what isn't offensive. And what struck me about that is that some people were offended. And my goodness, if anybody's been there and got the T-shirt about being offended, you've certainly had it in the press.
Yeah. Does it mean that maybe people are going to talk about it now? Actually, funnily enough, a few days later, we get the list of people who need to isolate, or to obviously make sure that they are in a position where they're not dealing with the general public and they're not going out. And weight is one of the great issues. But then we get in there. But you see, do you know that we spend, and this is a conservative amount, and I've spoken to various doctors about this, who actually contacted me after and said, you have no idea the problem that actually it does cause, is that we spend, or the NHS spends, we spend 6.1 billion fixing food-related diseases. 6.1 billion. Can you imagine if we could put that money into social services? why is this money? Why are we sticking plaster over things constantly, and not dealing with the root problem, which is the health of this country? You know, we found a lot of money to stick stickers and things on the streets telling us to stand 2 meters apart. And goodness only knows what's been going on. Big hoardings, adverts on the radio. Why didn't they put an advert on the radio as well as all the washing hands and saying, have a little lose weight. Listen, would have, should have, could have. But they've always known this. And this 6.1 billion, and there's more, is going to carry on. When COVID's dissipated, this is going to carry on. It's going to carry on. And mental health, we've locked everybody up, kept McDonald's open, closed the gyms. It's even worse. The people who love to go to the gym just to relieve the boredom. They can't go for anything. And wouldn't it have been great if they'd have said, right, I tell you what the deal is. We'll keep gyms open, but you have to offer £5 a day tickets to 30 people in your area.
I do get it. I do absolutely get it. But I mean, and I take your point about putting sticking plasters over stuff. We run a food bank, and it is. I'm fully aware that it's a sticking plaster, and the big wound is the mental health that's going to come out of, and it is a concern.
So the food bank that we have down here, because I've been doing deliveries, is run by, I don't know if you know, when you're a reverend, you think all reverends know each other. I don't know if you've ever come across the Reverend Stephen Chalk.
Yes,
he runs an organisation called Oasis, which I've been involved in now for over 20 years. London, as in all cities, have been hit badly by everything, because there's a huge amount crammed into a small space. Never before has that food bank been needed so much. So
Anthea, just let's move away from the politics and let's talk about you a bit. I was looking.
I battered your ears now on that one.
You grew up in Stoke. What was that like? Was that a happy time of your life?
Absolutely. I think we grew up, no social media. So we were just, you went out to play, didn't you? My mom was actually a teacher and, a very responsible adult. But all I ever remember was her going, be back for your tea. Where did we go? We were down by the canal trying to, jump the locks. We were fiddling around thinking we could fish. We were wandering, because Stoke-on-Trent, although, it's a pottery industry and you think of it as the city of Stoke-on-Trent, actually, it's just like Burnley. What you do is, this is the lovely thing that I think people in London don't understand, is wherever your town is, go 10 minutes in a direction and you're in the countryside, proper countryside. So, and I just remember looking back now and looking at the way kids are brought up now, because of the way the world is, it was actually quite innocent, really. It really was.
And you went to a Roman Catholic school. Was that a good experience?
I did. I went to a direct Grant grammar school, which was run by the Dominican nuns. I went to a very big comprehensive. I had a really tough time there because I'm dyslexic, and it wasn't really. We're talking the 70s now. So this is. I was 13 in 73. So I went to. I have to say, I was put in this class that really was struggling to do CSEs, and I sort of knew I knew the answers, but as soon as I wrote it down, it just looked like crazy stuff. And so, but they weren't really set up to deal with people with a problem, and somehow, not quite sure how, it was like a friend of my mom's, and I ended up having an interview with a nun called Sister Mary Edwards, and she sat down and talked to me, and she came out and said to my parents, she's obviously quite bright, but there's a problem. And even then, in these days, dyslexia wasn't talked about. Nobody had ever heard. I'd never heard of it. My mum had never heard of it. She was an English teacher. And anyway, to cut a long story short, they took me, and I had the best time. And it wasn't a sort of draconian Catholic school, although I did end up in the chapel doing a few Hail Marys and things because it would be naughty. But I loved those nuns, and they were really, you know, you hear some horror stories of schools like that, but ours wasn't, and it was all girls. And I can happily say I enjoyed single-sex education. I have a great relationship with other women, I think, because of that. You know, if it comes to the school concert, we were rolling our sleeves up and we were scene shifting. It wasn't, well, the boys will do that and the girls do this. There was no role play. We just all got on with it. Yeah. And I look very fondly back at my school. I know academically still completely rubbish, but had a great time.
Anthea, and maybe, I don't know, maybe with this truth, a nemesis of yours, Eamon Holmes, who I interviewed, is a Catholic, and he holds the view. I'm not going down any controversial road here, but he holds the view that once a Catholic, always a Catholic. Would you agree with that? Is that something?
You see, we're not Catholic.
You're not.
No, Church of England. No, I was.
Right, okay.
My mum was a Sunday school teacher, so up until I must have been about 13, 14 until I managed to extract myself from going to Sunday school, because I was dragged along from an early age. And then you get to that teenage thing where you think, I just don't want to get up this morning and go to Sunday school. But my mum was a Sunday school teacher. So my mum, my dad does the accounts for our local church. And my mum, although, you know, they're isolating at the moment, they're 88 and 90, and they're still very much involved in the church and always have been. So it's been a very central figure in our family life, has always been the church. Right. But as far as the Catholic thing is, I tell you what I do have. I have Catholic guilt. By osmosis, I soaked it up. Yeah. And I tell you what, and even when all of a sudden there was a few sort of arrows were coming my way last week, my Catholic girl, oh my God, I found myself starting to write back to people who got in touch with me and say, but it's not about you, you must understand. I don't want people to clog the NHS up because I want the money to go to you. Oh, right. Oh, I didn't think you meant it. No, I didn't. All right. So I spent ages writing to people. So yeah, Catholic guilt absolutely exists. And Eamon and I have talked about this. And Eamon and I are good friends now, much better relationship than we ever had when we were on GMTV. It was a weird time, you know, it was a really weird time for Eamon, actually, because, and I learned a lot by what Eamon went through, because he was going through a divorce at the time. His personal life was very rocky, but because of his Irish roots, his religious roots, he found it really difficult. And I'll never forget, he sat down and said to me, and he won't mind me telling you because I know he said it before, he said, you know, his family and his brothers and everything, he said, I feel a failure because I'm the one whose marriage is broken down. And that makes me a failure. And that really sat so hard inside of him. And he was just generally unhappy. And who do you take it out on? The person you see every day. It was me. But also I was in my mid-30s. I didn't know how to, I didn't understand. I didn't have the pot of experiences that I have now to pull from, to be able to understand him. Or my dog has just, oh God.
I'm not editing it. I'm leaving that in. I'm not editing that out.
Oh my God, that's the worst. Paw. But I didn't. And you know, that's, people always say, especially, you know, we'd all like to be younger. Yes, we would. We might like to look a bit younger. I'd like to have younger skin. However, you know, what we learn along the path in life, all these experiences, I feel so much better now than I ever did because I've got this heap of knowledge.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot
I'm
of
still
wisdom that
learning.
comes
I'm
with
still
life.
learning.
There's a lot of
Absolutely.
wisdom, yeah. Anthea, what did you want to do when you left school? Did you know you wanted to go in the entertainment industry? What was the plan?
I wanted to be a ballet dancer. I did ballet because my mom, obviously, who's say an English teacher, she's got this dyslexic child and she doesn't really understand it herself either, and is desperately looking for something that I could possibly be good at. And so realized that prancing around I was quite good at and smiling. So she put me into ballet lessons like lots of kids do, but I really loved it. I really did like it. And I think you speak to a lot of dyslexics and they will have moved to the arts in some shape or form, whether it's I did all my A levels are drama and theatre arts, pottery, craft and design, and art.
Yeah, there's a theme, isn't there?
Music.
So what was the break then? Was it radio?
It's the weirdest one. What happened was I did all this training as ballet dance, and then I think I realized that it was great as a hobby, but maybe this is not something I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. And I was okay, but I wasn't brilliant, so I think I'd have been on the back row of the chorus. So I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do. And I'm sitting in Stoke-on-Trent and I haven't got much of a clue. And so I thought, like a lot of kids do, or teenagers, late teens I was by now, I thought a car, for some reason, a car is the answer to all your problems. If you're living in London, nobody bothers. But if you live in Stoke-on-Trent, you need wheels.
Yeah.
So my dad said he'd help me to buy a car, but I had to get a job to pay for it. So okay then. So I got a job at the Automobile Association. When I say AA, everybody goes Alcoholics Anonymous. No, the Automobile Association. And I got in there, and it was doing breakdown and information. They said to me, "Oh, would you like to do the road traffic reports for the local BBC station? And we'll offer you £14 extra a month in your wages." So I thought, well, this is fantastic. £14 a month is a lot of money then. So I started doing the road traffic reports for the local BBC station. And quite liked it, really. So I ended up then popping over to the BBC station and doing what is known in the trade as anoracking, which is, I would just, if they were doing an event, I would go there, give out stickers. I had a boyfriend then at the time who was on the station, and that's how it really started. But the AA offered me an opportunity to go to Birmingham to work in their central broadcast area, of which I didn't go in the end. And I often think, I wonder if I had, I don't know, I would have probably never done what I did. Anyway, it was just a series of not unfortunate events, fortunate events. So I did my road traffic reports, BBC station, then got a job at a commercial station called Signal Radio as the record librarian. It was the most beautifully organised record library known to man. Everything was catalogued, and I loved it, because if dyslexics tend to be quite tidy, because you have to be, because your brain's in such a jumble, you sort of tidy things. So I had this record library, which I loved. Used to do a few little bits and bobs on air. And I literally, a boyfriend of mine got a job down at Radio 1. I came down, was at a party. Somebody said they're looking for somebody to do to be a VJ back in the day on Sky. Why don't you go for the audition? I went for the audition with Pat Sharp, Gary Davis, and I got the job. And then it sort of went for that. And then ended up doing Saturday morning television that led to Top of the Pops, that led to Blue Peter.
And so as that progressed, your career's kind of evolving and things are going really well. Can you remember the first time you felt famous? Can you remember being spotted and somebody going, that's that, and how was that a joyous moment?
No, because I'd been a bit naughty. Because what had happened was,
what a surprise.
I got my job at Blue Peter, and the guy who was the editor of Blue Peter had his daughter's school was doing a fete in a Chiswick in London. And he said, would I go along and open it as the new Blue Peter presenter? So I got my badge on and I went along and opened it. And I had what I thought at the time was the best car ever. My life has been sort of junctures of cars. And it was a Golf GTI, navy blue, the lid off. Just thought, God, back in the sort of the 90s, that was it. So I left there, I'd been nice to everybody, I'd signed autographs, it's lovely, and I was just, and I get in my car, and some bloke literally cuts me up at this junction, I mean, in a nasty way. And, you know, I'm a bit of a London driver, but in a nasty way, and I gesticulated in a way that you shouldn't do if you're wearing a Blue Peter badge. And then he looked at me and went, I know who you are. And oh my God, and my Catholic guilt. Oh my God, no. And I had palpitations. What am I going to do? And there was even a policeman standing there. And I thought the policeman was going to come and arrest me for gesticulating to someone. So then I thought, whoa. So anyways, that was the first time.
Well, it's one you'll never forget, isn't it?
Was that what you thought I was going to say?
Not at all, no. But I like it. It's a very nice anecdote. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I tell you what I want to ask now, Anthea, is I can't remember, so you'll have to tell me. Was there a time where you were kind of ever the sweetheart of the Red Tops? I can only kind of recall times where you've not been.
Yeah. No, to see, the problem was I was. And so you always know, you know, I'm not Meghan Markle, but, you know, everybody loud, and that's what happens. And I suppose it was a series of events. What happened was I come out to Blue Peter, I end up, you know, on the GMTV sofa, and then I get the National Lottery. National Lottery. I mean, you remember back in the day, National Lottery was huge. We all thought we were going to be multimillionaires, even though it was a 1 in 14 million chance of getting anything. And back in the day, we didn't have smartphones. The only way you were going to see your lottery numbers was on teletext, good old teletext.
Yeah, gosh.
Or by watching the program. And then I think Radio 1 put the numbers out, like after the television program. Then I think that there had to be a lull, and then Radio 1 put the numbers out. And so it was just huge. It was massive. It was just, you know, stratospheric. And so it was always, I can't tell you how many times I've done that. That was the figure, wasn't it? I can still do it. Around. And also, but back then, there was a small pool. It was Ulrika Johnson, Annika Rice, myself, who strangely from being somebody who just presented a television program, there came this wave, which is now obviously completely off the chart, where you became more famous for being famous, and more famous in the program somehow. And then it was a feeding frenzy. You know, OK Magazine arrived, Hello Magazine arrived, all the newspapers started their own glossy magazine, but it was quite a small pool of people. And of course, the blokes didn't get it because they were looking for the tart on the telly. So It was, but I didn't see it. I can look back at it now and you can see it exactly for what it was and how it became so distorted and over the top and da-da-da-da. You didn't see it at the time at all. You thought, oh, I'm just doing my job. Yeah. And then and obviously then I did lots of other jobs. But that was, I think, where it just went out of kilter.
Where can you remember, Anthea, what that was? What was the thing where you thought, whoa, we've stopped this and we've started going down the slippery slope?
No, I think it was I think probably the pivot was when giving things on a plate really, was when my marriage broke up. And I, very well documented, I met my second husband, who became my second husband, Grant. He had 3 children. And all of a sudden, I was Cruella de Vil. And it was, I mean, it was a difficult time. It was a difficult time for everybody. It really was. And I think had I had 3 children and my marriage had fallen apart and I'd met somebody else, I think it would have been fine. It was because it was the other way around. And, you know, a storm blew up. It really did. I'd like to say that those 3 girls are in my life every day of my life. One of them's, one of them only moved out, actually, just 2 years ago. And I can't imagine life without them at all. They're the little apples of my eye. They really are.
Anthea, when you live in that world where your relationship is being examined, and you met Grant, and that subsequently didn't work out. What does that, you know? I know from my job that dealing that in the privacy of a non-public setting is very difficult.
Yeah.
So what did that do to you?
Oh, it was, you know, I might be, you know, sticky makeup on, it's absolutely fine, but inside, no, you're creased, you're crumpled. It's horrific. You're living a nightmare, and then they hound you.
Anthea, what's that like when they're hounding you and they're chasing you down? Are you just not wanting to leave the house, or
thankfully then I didn't, I wasn't in London, so it makes life easier. But how do you feel? You are totally and utterly, it's like you're stripped naked and standing there in the middle of Trafalgar Square. And there's nothing you can do about it, because whatever you do, it will be the wrong thing. And yet behind closed doors, there's a very normal situation going on. Normal people who, you know, and I won't be the first person who would, shouting going on downstairs. But I won't be the first person who that's happened to, and I won't be the last. You know, and I know 1 in 3 marriages in this country don't work out. That doesn't make it right. But I don't know how to explain it because I'm just bore everybody stupid. But and even now talking to you, I'm trying to go to that place, and I can't because I think I've probably shut it down.
Yeah.
And if I do, I'm not somebody. It was actually Stephen Chalk who said this to me, who has talked to me for hours when I've been at my worst. I've talked to the Reverend Stephen Chalk has been my best sounding board, and he just said, we have this book of life, and we're all very good, and I think about this often, at thumbing through all the back pages, not to look at the good things that happened, often to dwell on the bad things that happened.
Yeah.
And go into the prison of bad thoughts. But we have to stop ourselves doing that. We have to stay in the moment and we have to look forward.
Yeah.
And that's where I sit with this now. I was in the eye of the storm. It was horrific. I lost so much weight. I was, I used every avenue I possibly could to keep myself sane on the road, because people depended on me, my mum and dad. There's my friends, my family, these three little girls that had come into my life, which I took a great responsibility for, and I still do to this day. And they've been with me now since they were 2, 5, and 6, and they're still with me. And even though Grant and I split up, we're still together, and we still do birthdays together. We still do events together. I have a good relationship and this is what really matters. And I always say to people who are going through these terrible situations, and I know you will have it in your parish, that everybody gets very agitated, people getting divorced, and it can all get very nasty. But the better you are dealing with that, the better your relationships are going to be when you come out of it. And it was really, really important for me that I kept as good a relationship as I possibly could with the children's father, because the other side, he's still the children's father. And that is still a family and a collection of 5 of us who've been together through an awful lot.
Yeah.
And we're still like that, which I'm happy to say. And my first husband and I still really good friends. See him quite a lot.
Anthea, can I ask? And if it's just time to shut up if you don't. I think just listening to you talk, I'm listening to you talking about, I suppose, that Catholic guilt coming up in there as well, about and all that. But you, I know that you're planning to marry again, and so I suppose, is this because, are we going back to the ballerina here? This is a lady that ultimately believes in the concept of marriage, and when you want to give your life to somebody forever, that at the time is your absolute intention, and you want to do that again.
Yeah. I totally believe in marriage, and it can be very cynical. Oh, what, you're going to get married again? Why get married? Get married because I am totally in love with Mark. We have, I've met somebody who, and I tell you what, we fell down together. We haven't fallen out at all. And I've met somebody I want to spend the rest of my life with. And I think that I truly believe in marriage. I believe I would have loved it, if my other 2 marriages had worked out. That would have been fantastic, but they didn't. They didn't, for various reasons. They didn't, and it's never nothing's ever simple. Everybody thinks it's really, well, you should stay together. No, absolutely not.
With your Christian upbringing, is that a marriage in the eye of God, or is that a marriage in the eye of a relationship? Sorry, that's quite deep, isn't it? At 10 to 12.
Yeah, because I have a lot of faith. I have faith in humanity. I have faith in all the religions of the world, actually. So I have faith. So I am still getting married in the eyes of my faith in, let's call it God, human nature. Because I don't think God put us on this earth because he wanted us to be unhappy or stay in something where those 2 people would be much happier apart. I don't think, I can't imagine that we're calling him he now, would want that to happen. I think if somebody doesn't get married for the right reasons, and I absolutely did on both occasions, and I will again. And I think that if for sundry, but many, many, many reasons, that doesn't work out, those people are better going out into the world, spiritually going out into the world and finding their way. It's I think it's very wrong when somebody gets into a marriage for not the right reasons and they are abusive to their partner, and they have no respect for their partner. I have the utmost respect, actually, for my ex-husbands. I know their good sides, and I know that, you know, what Grant got up to, but happy people don't leave happy homes. They really don't. But I'm not a sort of serial, I've never even been a serial dater, to be honest. I really haven't. No, not at all. So yes, in answer to your question, I think God is a nice, kind person spiritually, and I have faith, and that faith tells me that it's not wrong.
Yeah,
I haven't.
There's a lot in there I agree with. You know, God doesn't want you to be in an unhappy relationship. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
Yeah, and my first husband now is married to a lovely lady who I know. I always knew her. She was a friend of mine in any case. As we all know each other. She's a friend of mine in any case. Who's absolutely lovely, and they are perfect for each other. Just absolutely perfect for each other at this stage in their lives. They are perfect for each other. Yeah, and they bring each other a huge amount of joy. Huge.
Anthea, it's been a real joy to meet you and to talk to you, and I'm mindful of time. And just, you know, just looking back on your career, not that it's ended, and certainly hasn't, but if you could go back to one of those places, Blue Peter, Top of the Pops, is there one that you'd go, you know, I've got to go back to one. I'm going there. Where would you think you would go? Which was the best time?
Called Anthea Turner, Perfect Housewife. It's a very tongue-in-cheek title, but I loved it because what I was able to do was fix things. I'm a fixer. I love fixing things. With my friends, what's the problem? Don't worry, let's see if we can fix this. We'll sort this out. And I adored if somebody's home is chaotic and it's in a mess, that is symptomatic of something else. It's like going into a business that's in a mess. It's like going into a home that's in a mess. And by being able to help people to sort out their little world, you know, you and I, we can't sort out the world. But what we can do is we can help sort out our own little world and make it easier for us to navigate. And if tidying up, cleaning up, getting a little bit organized, delegating to family members so that one person isn't completely and utterly pushed down by the pressures of running a home, then I think I've done something good. And I did 48 different Perfect Housewives program. So 48 different homes, sorry. And I think of them, there was only 2 where I think I was batting my head against a brick wall. And when we went back, everybody said, no, we have an easier life. Because all of us, and this is a little thing to think about, all of us spend the greater part of the money that we earn on the roof over our head, whether we're renting it or whether we have bought it. So respect it, respect your space, and why turn it into a homogenized dumping ground? And it actually gets to people, and you know, and I know, and I've done it privately for friends and said, right, come on, I'm here. Let's have a tidy up, a sort out. Let's clear all that up because it'll help your mind, and we need to help people's minds. So, and I think over lockdown as well, my poor boyfriend here has had me obviously for lockdown, which some people would want to be climbing the walls having me in their house for lockdown. And there's not a cupboard that we haven't had to go through. And the loft, honestly, and Frank would love it. It's just so clean.
You know, there's a real Christian message in what you've just said, because you can't affect the world, but you can. You can affect the little space that you're in, and if we all did that a little bit better, then I think you're right, the world would be a finer place. Anthea, it's been absolutely fabulous talking to you. I'm so glad you came on. And
thank you.
You know, and we send our love to you from the Northwest. And if you've not been to Burnley, you need to get here. I can't think why you would come here, but
Well, I'm waiting for my invites. Up to your share.
Yeah, we've got beautiful countryside. We've got beautiful countryside. Maybe not at the moment, but in the summer it's absolutely beautiful. And Anthea, thanks for your time, and we wish you well, and many blessings from Burnley. Goodbye.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.